something, something. You feel me? So 102 episodes, and I'm here with my partner in crime. This is the first time we've had guests on Zoom. I know y'all might think we living under a rock, but here on Rolling with Ramos, technologically advanced as we are, or as Tristan is, we try to build upon these things, and you're going to be seeing a lot of good guests from us. So we're going to bring it. Speaking of Tristan and his expertise, because he is the star, it's another night between you and I, Tristan. Hi.
How's it going? How's it going? Yeah, this new thing on Facebook with the streaming is very interesting. Of how this stuff runs, but it's cool. Like I like that we got the feature. We're able to have wonderful guests on, so can't complain.
Drop those comments down below. Talk to us. It's going to be a delay on that, but if whoever's looking, Tristan, you're probably looking. Tell me about those comments when you see them. We have a special guest tonight, and from the wonderful world of social media. I can't believe I said that because social media is such a gift and a curse. But from the wonderful world of social media, I met a new friend on Twitter, and is she amazing or what? And I had to have her on this show. Her name is Loreal Nix. You have to find a way to figure out if you have a stake in the makeup company, because you might have a cousin that got a cousin and you need to get some money out of that. But anyways, Loreal Nix, she is a Detroit native. She's a student and she is a published sports journalist. She writes for the Game House and the Last Word Hoops. She is almost finishing up her degree. Come to find out, she went to school that Antonio, who knew he was that crazy? But Antonio Brown went to. Loreal Nix, you are rolling with Ramos. Welcome home, girl.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much for everything. I'm excited. I'm just ready to get the ball rolling.
All right, let's go. So we're going to go in and out of some things. This is how this show works. So I'm going to start with NFL, then we're going to talk about some other things. We're going to go back into the NFL, come back out. So this is going to be like one of these, but it's going to be fun, right, Tristan?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Week 11 NFL power rankings. Number one, the Kansas City Chiefs. They were one last week. Number two, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were two last week. Number three, the New Orleans Saints. They were number three last week. And so they stay in the same spot. Number four, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They rise up. They were seven last week. The Green Bay Packers are at five. They stay at five because they were there last week. Number six, the Baltimore Ravens. They dropped two because they were four last week. The Buffalo Bills. They dropped 1-7 as they were six last week. Number eight, the Las Vegas Raiders. They drop up two because they were 10 last week. The Arizona Cardinals, they drop up two because they were 11 last week. And the Los Angeles Rams, they were 13 last week. They are now 10. If we're looking forward to week 11, if guys want to talk about a little bit of how black people are just magic and how we just do the damn thing. This week, week 11, Monday Night Football's Rams Bucks game in Tampa Bay on all black officiating crew will be used for the first time. It shouldn't have been the first time, but this is the first time that it will be used on national television by the NFL. It will be led by Morehouse grad Jerome Boger. How great is that, y'all?
I mean, he's been doing it for a long time, so I'm glad that have this whole all black officiating crew. Like this is a moment. I hope there's at some point like somebody gets like a photo op to have that happen. With all of them
Yes.
together. That's a huge moment. But he's actually one of my favorite referees because he takes it right down the middle. Like there's never a question when he makes a judgment call. So I'm excited to see that.
Loreal, he spent some time in the MEAC and the CIAA, I think, doing some officiating. So he's culturally, this is good for the culture. How you feel about it?
I mean, this is a really big deal. We're seeing more and more black people getting into leadership positions like coaching, and now we see with the new officials. And definitely the fact that he's from HBCU, that just raises it up even more as far as like black excellence.
First 4 games on the NFL schedule. Number 1, the Colts beat the Titans 34-17. This second one was a high-scoring game, guys. The Browns beats Texas 10-7.
Free Deshaun Watson. Free Deshaun Watson from the prison that is the Houston Texans.
We're going to talk about his former teammate a little bit later. I know he was hurting watching that game.
Man.
The Washington football team, damn. I was feeling like Georgia Evans at the end of that game. 27-30, they lose to the Lions in overtime at the last minute. The Jaguars lose to the Packers 24-20. Loreal, you're going to be up first because we go to the NBA. CP3 on IG, he says, OKC, what a full circle moment this last season was. Genuinely grateful for your hospitality and the warm welcome from day one. Much love to everyone in the organization, the fans, most importantly, the fellas that brought out that dog day in and day out. Year 15 will never be forgotten. That was year 15 as he was in Oklahoma City, because these are parting words, because he's no longer going to be there for his year 16. According to CBSSports.com, Chris Paul's adventure in Oklahoma City has come to an end. The Thunder traded their superstar point guard in Abdel Nader to the Phoenix Suns in exchange for Kelly Oubre Jr. Put some respect on Kelly Oubre's name. I hope that he finds somewhere where he lands that they can see the dog that he is. DC, you made a huge mistake. But anyways, for Kelly Oubre Jr., Ricky Rubio, Ty Jerome, Jalen Leckie, and a 2022 first-round draft pick. Paul was traded to the Thunder last offseason in a blockbuster deal that sent Russell Westbrook to the Houston Rockets. Despite initial expectations that the Thunder would quickly trade him elsewhere in exchange for picks and prospects, Paul spent the entire season in OKC. He excelled, making his first All-Star game since 2016 while leading the Thunder to the number 5 seed in the Western Conference. Though they eventually lost to the Houston Rockets in 7 games in the first round of the playoffs, it was an impressive statement from Paul that he was still one of the best point guards in the game. Yet, while it was clear the Thunder could have remained a playoff team with Paul in town, they were intent on transitioning into a full rebuild this offseason. Head coach Billy Donovan, he's gone. Dennis Schroeder was reportedly traded to the Los Angeles Lakers, and veteran forward Danilo Gallinari is unlikely to return. Now Paul is gone too, and the Thunder have added a number of young players to their roster and another future first-round pick in Shai Gilgeous, Alexander, Terrence Ferguson, Darius Baisley, and now Oubre. The Thunder have some interesting young talent to go along with their massive cachet of picks. The next few years might be a bit of a struggle, but there will be position for the future. As for the Suns, they're focused on the present. Paul's arrival puts them in a position to make the playoffs for the first time since 2010, back when Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire were still running pick and rolls together on the court instead of designing them on the sideline. According to Sportsline data scientist Stephen O., the Suns' chances of making the playoffs jumped from 36.8% to 73.8% in this deal. The Suns are coming off an eye-opening performance in the bubble where they went 8-0 to nearly make a miraculous jump into the playoffs. Though they ultimately fell short, they showed that there was something to build on there with Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton forming a strong foundation. While Paul's arrival doesn't suddenly make them a contender, it makes them a team everyone else has to worry about. After all, we just saw what Paul did with the Thunder team that arguably had less talent than this Suns bunch. Loreal, Chris Paul was sent to Oklahoma City by Houston as far as they were concerned to commit career suicide. They were trying to get rid of him, and they thought that he wasn't going to amount to anything anymore. They thought he would falter. He took this great team to great heights and actually almost beat the Rockets. Now, how big of a headline would that have been? His 16th year will be spent elsewhere. What do we make of Chris Paul at this time of his career? Is looking like he's still looking like the guy that's the glue that can make things happen. He's not old yet. He's a timeless veteran, and he can still do these things. Also, what do we believe in as far as the future of Oklahoma City and how are they rebuilding? And are the Suns becoming something permanently that everyone needs to put on their radar?
Um, Definitely Chris Paul. He is the glue or the super glue when it comes to just making sure that teams play in a very, solid way. If it's one thing you can say about Chris Paul is that Chris Paul definitely makes teams better. And even though he has moved, and this will be his third team that he'll be a part of since 2017, but still, Chris Paul is definitely that difference maker. He helps he is such a floor general. Like it's just crazy how he can just combat the floor and can just command people to just make sure that they have the right leadership skills. And I feel like being in Phoenix is not too different from being from Oklahoma City. When you had Chris Paul with SGA gotten better. So now that Chris Paul is gone, SGA can now be the commander of OKC now. And also, shout out to Sam Presti, by the way, because he is just literally being like the GOAT when it comes to GMs. He is literally cashing in on every single draft pick he can get so he can continue to rebuild, continue to develop, and continue to bring young talent in into OKC, which is surprisingly a small market. But even though they're a small market, they've just been flourishing for the past decade or so, and they will be for the next decade. Now, going on to Phoenix, this is definitely a great move for Phoenix. I feel like this is the player that Devin Booker needs in order to, flourish as a player. I feel like Chris Paul and Devin Booker, they're probably going to be a really, really explosive backcourt. And I'm going to say that Phoenix could probably have the chance to be top five in the West. I really do. When you look at the entire lineup just from the surface, you have Chris Paul, you have Devin Booker, you have Cameron Johnson, Michael Bridges, DeAndre Ayton, who's been improving since last season. I feel like this team could really be a threat. I feel like this team could be a threat against OKC and maybe even the Lakers. Just looking at the actual matchups.
It's crazy you talk about Devin Booker because there was a lot of us saying, get him out of Phoenix because he needs some help or he needs to go somewhere where he can evolve. But of course, he couldn't go nowhere because he took all that money. I give it to him. But now Devin Booker has some place that he can finally call Phoenix home and we can be comfortable with that. Right, Loreal?
Yes, exactly. And to be honest, I feel like Devin Booker really shouldn't have had a red flag of leaving, even if Chris Paul didn't come. I feel like this bubble season, I feel like this was a great opportunity for Phoenix, a young emerging team, to show that they're ready. They're ready to take on teams like Houston, the Clippers, the Lakers, and those kind of teams. Monty Williams, he's a great coach and creating that developmental relationship between these players. So I feel like Devin Booker, he was right in the place he needs to belong to. I definitely feel like, if they did have the chance, Phoenix definitely should have been in that playing tournament because if they was the only team that was playing just stellar throughout the bubble, defensively and offensively, the fact that they went 8-0 the way they did, they shouldn't be able to be in the playing tournament, but of course, by the rules, they wasn't able to because of the record. But I definitely feel like this is Devin Booker's time to really shine, and I feel like he has the player that can help him show him the way.
I'm going to pull on my personal strings a little bit, and then Tristan, we're going to get to you. I mentioned Kelly Oubre, whose wardrobe is as fly as his game, and I've watched him in many locker rooms when I had a chance to cover the Wizards. Talk about his game and talk about the evolution of his game and where are we going to be able to find a chance for him to really spread his wings? Is this the place? Because he is not shabby by no means.
Definitely, he's not shabby, and Oubre is definitely, a wing player. And actually, as today, Adrian Wojnarowski just announced that OKC actually traded him to the Warriors.
Yes, I heard that.
I
Who
just
needs some
missed
help now? We'll talk about that later.
Definitely, yes. But I would say Kelly Oubre, he's definitely developed into that wing player where he's such a solid defender and he's also a well-rounded player offensively. And I feel like when you look at specifically the three spot, the small forward spot, you need a player that can be able to shoot as well as to defend. So I feel like, for the Warriors, that would be definitely that was definitely a plus for them, especially, after the unfortunate injury that Klay Thompson had to deal with. But I definitely feel like every team was trying to cash in on Oubre just because of that. And he had a breakout season in Phoenix. He averaged 18 points. He had career highs shooting from the field, 42% shooting from three, 34%. Like he's literally a jack of all trades. And I feel like a lot of teams that had him, like Washington, Phoenix, unfortunately, he would have been really great at OKC, but he definitely is that player that a lot of people should look at.
She speaks like a beautiful melody, Tristan. It's almost as if we're listening to Sade talk sports. I'm loving this. Her voice is so beautiful. You got a tough act to follow. Do you agree?
I agree with most of her statements. I agree with most of them. Only thing I won't agree so much on is how they're going to be in the West, because I'm still, of course, we're looking at the Lakers because they're the reigning defending champion. I'm looking at the Clippers. I want to see what they do
You
if they
just
pull
wanted
off
to
getting.
say that.
Well, no, I mean, facts are facts. Facts are facts here. There's no bias here. Facts are facts. But also looking at the Clippers and seeing what's going on. Let's see if they're going to pull off the Rondo sweepstakes. That's the hot commodity right now. I know the Rockets are kind of like in a disarray. They don't know what they're doing. They got two disgruntled superstars, but I'm hoping. Well, I'm not hoping, but I'm thinking they can, figure out how to right the ship on that. So I'm not going to count it out until I have to. Then I'm looking at the Denver Nuggets, who were awesome in the bubble, and what they based on their draft, they definitely got a whole lot better because now they got help in that backcourt for Murray. And I can't count out the youth. I can't count out the Jazz. Can't count them out. So I'm looking. The Phoenix will be better. I think one thing a lot of people are talking about. Sorry, one thing a lot of people are talking about is in regards to Chris Paul and Devin Booker. But what people don't realize, the real magic in Chris Paul going to Phoenix is Chris Paul with DeAndre Ayton, because one thing with Chris Paul, the one real gem with Chris Paul is that he makes all his bigs become all-stars. Every big that's played with Chris Paul has been an all-star. You can go all the way to Tyson Chandler. You see what happened with DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin. Anytime he's got sizable guys around them, he has made them into all-stars, and that's because he knows where to put the ball for them. He's one of the best lob passers we've ever seen. He puts it perfectly in a spot that only them can get it and throw it down. So whereas I know for Booker, having a floor general like that on the court gives him more of a chance to play off ball, more of a chance to be more of the scorer and the shooter on the outside. I'm looking for Ayton to really have a breakout year with Chris Paul because of how he is with big. So Phoenix definitely did some awesome things. And yes, huge shout out to Sam Presti with OKC. Mm-hmm. I mean, they basically own the NBA draft for the next 5-6 years. Like for him to come from having James Harden, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, all these boys, Kendrick Perkins, and not being able to get a championship out of them, dismantling the whole thing, and then you're in a position where you can literally revamp this team all over again. I mean, yeah, kudos to him and the moves that he's making to get all those first round picks. And what people have to understand, because people keep saying like, well, he's got all these first round picks, like we have to wait 5-6 years to see what this team's going to look like. No, this team can look like something next year. It can look like something the year after, because all those picks aren't going to sit there. But now he can shop around and say, well, I'll give you this first round pick for this player, and they can make the swap because he has a chance to have multiple drafts with multiple first round picks. It was a genius move looking at the long-term solution. It made even more sense of why they sent Chris Paul to Phoenix, because they know that Chris Paul wants a chance to compete. with the Phoenix Suns, they will have a chance to compete in the West. I'll give it that credit. But you're also giving the Thunder you're giving the long leash to the coach, and you're telling the fans that they need to invest in long-term solutions for OKC. So I'm excited to see what it's going to be. But the West is so loaded. It's really going to be interesting to see how Phoenix fares as far as playoff slots.
People forget a lot of times that there's a beauty in rebuilding, because we might turn around and look at the Oklahoma City team a year from now, 2 years from now, saying, oh my God, they are here. And you might see a player or a veteran say, I want to go to Oklahoma City. I don't think it's that bad. I think I could do something here. Yes. And now you have all these picks to give somebody that may be rebuilding afterwards. So it's a beauty in that. So we can look forward to that.
Absolutely.
We go back to the NFL, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're having a good time. The next 4 games, the Giants beat the Eagles in an NFC battle. Is there even really an NFC East battle anymore?
No, they're all expedition games.
She said no. 27-17. The Buccaneers beat the Panthers 46-23. The Raiders beat the Broncos 37-12. The Dolphins beat the Chargers 29-21. And the Cardinals beat the Bills 32-30. And this is where we stay, y'all, because the catch was as sensational as the throw, which was quickly dubbed a Hail Murray. Not a Hail Mary, but a Hail Murray. The game appeared lost for the Cardinals until Murray rolled out to his left as the seconds ticked off the clock. He flung the ball toward the end zone where DeAndre Hopkins, just in case you were wondering, shout out to the Houston Texans. You gave him away for peanuts. Look at him now. Where Hopkins was waiting with 3 Buffalo defenders draped all over him. I knew it left my hand. It had a chance, Murray said. You play quarterback. You can tell the trajectory, the touch of the ball. DeAndre Hopkins said, hey, they had a lot of guys around me, but I caught the ball. It was the catch for me. But then again, you can't forget the throw, because you can't have a catch without the throw. Everybody's saying, Loreal and Tristan, that this might be a MVP season for Kyler Murray with the numbers that he's producing. And look at what it's almost watching Russell Wilson years later, but also now. But at the same time, this Arizona Cardinals team, DeAndre Hopkins, and the tag team that they're going to build for years. First of all, talk about that play. Whoo! How does that rank amongst the top plays in NFL this year? Okay, these are my top plays so far. Seeing that and DK Metcalf just run down. I mean, he deserved Defensive Player of the Year for that one. I'm looking at that game like, I'm thinking he's coming. Oh, shoot, he's coming. And then for them to not even score, shout out to DK Metcalf. But where does that play rank? How was it for y'all seeing it? And how do you feel about the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray?
I would say that play is definitely at the top right now. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, he just unreal. And just like you said, Houston pretty much gave him away for a bag of peanuts. But, all jokes aside, Arizona is the real deal. And I really feel like Arizona is going to win the division. I do feel like it is going to be close a little bit with Seattle, because again, Russell Wilson, he's having MVP year too. DK Metcalf, I mean, he's definitely doing tremendously well for a second season. But again, that defense is a little bit questionable. So, we'll see what happens down the stretch. But Arizona is the real deal. Kyler Murray, I just love the way he plays. He has that Russell Wilson, type of arm where he can throw hair Marys and things like that. But also he can run. And I think Arizona is successful not only from their passing game, but from their running game. When you look at Murray, Edmonds, Kenyon Drake, they run for almost 200 plus yards every single game. And that definitely helps them in the long run down the stretch against, really tough defensive teams like Buffalo. Buffalo has been a good team as well. defensively, but DeAndre Hopkins, again, he's unreal. He's just unreal.
There's no answer for that. You had three answers around him. I saw a meme that said DeAndre Hopkins, Bills.
Right, the
Yeah.
president is DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
What do you say to your defense after that? You can't really
Nothing. There's nothing you can say. If I'm the defensive coach, right? The only thing I could possibly say was, man, I wish you tried to just swat it, because it seemed like they were trying to pick it. And when I kept watching it over and over, what it seemed like they were trying to do was locate it to pick it instead of just knocking it down. And that's all they had to do was just knock it down. But if you're trying to reach to pick it against DeAndre Hopkins, you're not going to have a chance. Like, his hands are 10 inch and a quarter. Like, you're not going to, all he has to do is have a little bit of an edge on you, and there's nothing else you can do about it. So, as far as, Kyler Murray's concerned, I remember watching him at Oklahoma, and I was like, man, I believe in his talent. Like, I was like, nah, he's good. But I was like, I just feel like he's going to get tagged one good time in the NFL, and that's just going to be the wake-up call. But the thing is, he knows how to avoid the hits. It's the same like Russell Wilson. He knows how to avoid the hits. And I said it before. I said I wanted to maybe write something about this one day. But there is something to be said about these quarterbacks that have baseball backgrounds.
Yes.
There's something to be said about these guys. They can play the game differently because they use their bodies a little different than somebody that's a conventional a conventional quarterback. These baseball guys, and it's not anything new. And I think that's the thing people aren't getting. Like, this isn't new. This isn't a new thing that we're watching with these guys. John Elway was an awesome baseball player. Primetime was an awesome baseball player. Brett Favre played baseball before. Andrew Luck played baseball. Patrick Mahomes, his father was awesome in the majors. He played. So, like, there's a thing about, especially for the quarterback position, about these guys that play baseball and how they throw that ball. They just understand it different. They can throw it in different angles. Like, when you really think about it, what Kyler did, and I know you said it was the catch for you, which was awesome. Yeah. I think the reason why I'm saying it's the throw for me, because although what D-Hop did was great, I've seen players do it. I've seen Calvin Johnsons of the world. I've seen the Randy Mosses of the world. So if you're just a freakish athlete like that, it's possible. What made it the throw for me is understand the size that Kyler is. Understand his size and the wingspan that he has. For him to be able to roll to his left, being right-handed at full speed, he didn't even have time to set
avoid
his feet.
A sack in the process.
He didn't avoid his feet. All he did was he had enough torque in his hips to launch it. And it had to be perfect. It couldn't just be a random throw. It really had to be intentional where he was trying to go with that ball for it to have the arc that it did and come down the way it did for D-Hop to have a chance at it. So that's why I said the complication of it for me was what made it amazing. And people talk about Aaron Rodgers doing it all the time, like Aaron Rodgers is the Hail Mary king. But the thing about it, when you watch a few of them, I think there's only one throw that Aaron Rodgers did like that where he was off balance. But most of them, he'll roll out, but he had time to set his feet. Kyler is running full speed and just kind of just chucked it. And that is amazing to do that on the opposite of your body. So it's awesome to see. I definitely have him in the MVP. I wouldn't have him up. Some people got him up high. For me, I don't have him that up high, but he's definitely like in the top 5 for MVP race, just for what he's doing. The only thing that's keeping him is that he's had some turnovers. I think he's had like 10, 12 turnovers, and he's only thrown like 17 or 18 touchdowns. What's helping the MVP race is that he's also ran for 10 touchdowns. So that's what's kind of making the numbers be kind of scary. But throwing it's only been 17, 18. And then when you look at Patrick Mahomes, he's thrown 25 touchdowns to 1 interception. Aaron Rodgers has thrown 24 touchdowns to 4. It's just hard to put someone like him above those kind of numbers.
You know what you guys, you know what came to me when he said the twerking, the movement of the hips and how he was able to turn. You remember that Dak Prescott meme? And everybody was joking about him.
Right, the little hip thing. But that's
what
the
you
result
need.
you're going to get with that.
That's what you need. That's what you
to
need.
Be able
That's
to
what
have
you
that
need.
kind of twerk. Yes. Yes.
We got twerk in the NFL now, y'all. Where have we come to? Anyways, we're gonna go to the if you're watching, you're tuned into Rolling with Ramos, episode 102 of them things. I'm Mikkel. That's Tristan. L'Oreal, hi. She's our guest for tonight, and she's bringing it. We go to the NBA. Now, Tristan, you and I, we don't do too much of predicting the future. We talk about it, we think about it, we write about it. When I write down questions or I talk about certain things, I don't think I'm going to have a premonition to the very next day. We had a premonition to the very next day because as soon as we talked about Golden State and them trying to have that reemergence in the Western Conference, ooh, did we get some news? The undefeated Mark J. Spears tweets after the news of Klay Thompson's injury becomes public. He tweets that an NBA source in the know about Klay Thompson's injury simply answered to him, that it was not good. And this was before we got any news. What we didn't know is what the not good stood for. Now we know. According to BleacherReport.com, the Golden State Warriors guard reportedly will miss his second straight season due to a leg injury. Per ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, Adrian Wojnarowski, him and Adam Schefter, they're both like how Outside the Lines used to be. Before you get on Outside the Lines, it's up for speculation. We don't know if it's true or not. Right. But if you end up on Outside the Lines, you did it. Shout out to them and their investigative reporting skills, because it's always, soon as their names pop up, you believe it. Adrian Wojnarowski, Thompson tore his Achilles. What'd you say?
I was disagreeing.
Okay. Thompson tore his Achilles during a workout on Wednesday. After missing the entire 2019-20 season when he tore his ACL in his left knee during Game 6 of the 2019 NBA Finals, Thompson's redemption campaign was put on pause when he suffered a leg injury during an off-season workout the day of the 2020 NBA Draft. Wojnarowski reported Wednesday that the 30-year-old would undergo tests over the following days, but the severity of the injury is unclear. Sham Shanaria of The Athletic in Stadium reported that Thompson was unable to place weight on his leg when he left the gym in Southern California, where he sustained the injury. Thompson was cleared to participate in the Warriors' voluntary minicamp at the end of September, according to Dalton Johnson of NBC Sports Bay Area. With Thompson and Stephen Curry both sidelined during the pandemic-shortened season, the Warriors were the worst team in the league, going 15-50, but the return of their former first-round pick was sure to set them back on the right path in 2020-21. Thompson, who signed a 5-year deal with $189.9 million ahead of last season, earned all-star status for 5 straight seasons leading up to his injury. He added 21.5 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 2.4 assists on 4.67 shooting, 4.402 from 3 in his last outing in 2018-19. D'Angelo Russell was the Warriors' primary guard for most of the season before he was dealt to the Minnesota Timberwolves at the trade deadline, while Damian Lee, I can't read my own handwriting, who averaged 12.7 assists in 49 games last season, is slotted behind Thompson on the depth chart. First thing I thought was, damn. How unfortunate is this one, guys? And where does this put Golden State now? How much more will Stephen Curry have to work this season?
This is just truly heartbreaking. When I first heard it, I'm just like, God, no, like, please, like, no, because we just know how just ugly the ACL tear was. last year in the finals, and just even though he tore his ACL, he still hobbled back in the court. He went through the whole tunnel and he made those 2 free throws. And I just kept thinking about that, and just hearing the news that it was an Achilles again. That just it's just like a drop. I just felt a drop because when KD, and I'm a KD fan, when he tore his Achilles, that's big, and everybody tells me, and everybody will tell you, recovering from the Achilles is not easy at all. Lots of players don't make it. Some players make it. Former Warriors player Sean Livingston, he was able to recover from the Achilles, and he did do a great job being a part of that Warriors team. So I feel like when it comes to the Achilles, it just really depends on the player. You can't really say, well, the Achilles is the Achilles. Yes, that is true, but some people can recover and some people cannot. And Thompson, when he had the ACL injury, and of course the season started in December, he was pretty much thinking, I'm ready to go. And unfortunately, this happened, and it's just really devastating. But I do feel like the Warriors shouldn't really panic, and here's why. You still have Curry, you still have Draymond. Now that you just got Kelly Oubre, I feel like this is going to be a plus because Kelly Oubre is not Klay Thompson, but again, like I said before, he is an elite defender and he's an elite offensive player. And I feel like he has enough upside to where he can fill the void of Klay Thompson to where it won't be so much of a significant loss. And I'm pretty sure we're going to be, moving forward to the draft.
Yes.
But James Wiseman, now you have a center that can start. You have a center that's 7'1", lots of athleticism. I just feel like the Warriors are in a good position. You have Andrew Wiggins, who can now be into that fourth or third option now instead of being a star, which I feel like that's going to be much better for him now than before when he was younger. I feel like people shouldn't push the panic button yet. Is there a possibility that the Warriors maybe could not make it to the playoffs? There could be a possibility because, again, health is still an issue with all the players. But I still feel like the Warriors still have a good chance to do really big things in the West. I feel like the Oubre trade was very huge. I feel like getting Wiseman, considering that you had the number 2 pick and you had to pick the best available, I feel like that was a plus for the Warriors. I feel like the Warriors should be in good hands.
Tristan.
So I share the same sentiments as L'Oreal with when I heard the news last night. I was the same way. I was praying that it wasn't anything serious. Maybe he'd be out for a few weeks or whatever. And I kept getting notifications, and it's like they're saying it's something with a heel. And as soon as you hear heel, you're like, oh God, it's the Achilles. So then at that point, I'm like, okay, well let's hope that it's not a complete tear. Something that probably keep him out like half the season. Let's see what it looked like. And then, getting up this morning, close around, I think it was like around 10 o'clock, 10:30 when they confirmed that it was an Achilles tear. It truly broke my heart. Klay Thompson is definitely one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA. He does everything the right way. He's everything that you'd want in a star player on your team. I think L'Oreal is a little more optimistic than I am, even though I agree with her points. But I just think she's a little more optimistic because the threat. I understand who Steph Curry is.
Yeah.
All right. I understand who he is. I understand what he means to the game. But the threat of him is amplified because Klay Thompson is there with him. Klay Thompson makes that engine run efficiently. It's not going to be as efficient without him because what's going to end up happening is 2 things have to happen. 2 things could happen, but they have to go one way. Steve Kerr is going to have to make a decision and completely revamp the way they run their offense because they have Wiggins, because they have Oubre now, because they have Wiseman. They have to run a kind of a more conventional style of offense where they bang a little more and take the pressure off of Steph Curry. It's either doing that or you're going to run Steph Curry to the ground trying to run that same kind of offense. And the reason why is because there's no other person on that team that can threaten the outside shot other than Steph Curry.
Kelly Oubre. That's what she's saying.
But not to the level of Klay Thompson. And the reason why I say that, Klay Thompson holds the record for most points scored in a quarter. So
you might not be afraid to let
you're not afraid
to leave Kelly Oubre open because it might be a miss. Klay Thompson, you're preparing for it.
You'll respect it. But you're not going to be in fear of it. Klay Thompson holds the record for most points scored in a quarter. The person behind him is himself. He holds the 2 highest points in one quarter. This is a guy that scored 30-something, 40 points on 20 or less shots. We understand who Steph Curry is as a three-point shooter, but I want people to understand the scoring prowess of Klay Thompson. For someone to be that efficient off the ball and shooting threes that kind of way at that kind of clip, any quarter you worry that Klay is going to get hot. That's why they call him Nuke, because any quarter he might make a decision like, I'm going to score 36 in this quarter, and we're just going to blow this out the water. We don't have that threat anymore with him not being on the floor. So that's what I'm saying. Steve Kerr is going to have to coach this in a more conventional way because you don't have the benefit of having Klay Thompson being there just in case if Steph Curry struggles or Steph Curry has an off night. You don't have that cushion because Kelly Oubre can shoot it, like you said, 42% from three last year. Had a great year, but he can't shoot at the clip that Klay Thompson can, and nobody, including Steph Curry, cannot score at the clip that Klay Thompson can in a single quarter. That is the concern that I have with the Golden State Warriors.
I want to talk about the injury of the Achilles itself. And I want to talk about one thing, and it is going to be a question to you guys. I was watching the clip of Klay going back and shooting the free throws, and one of the commentators said it was Paul Pierce's. No, it wasn't, because Paul Pierce in that fake Willis Reed impression he was pulling against the Lakers in the finals, he had to go to the bathroom, okay? Yeah. He stood there, he milked it, and then he ran on the court like a hero. I will never let him live it down. That's not the same. Anyways, I digress. But it's not about me. But the Achilles injury, we're watching a lot of people having to come back from Achilles injury. I don't know if it's been a couple years of the year of the Achilles, but this is when we talk about the Achilles injury, and Tristan, we've had a lot of conversations about this. It's hard to know how you're going to come back as. We're looking at a John Wall situation, Loreal. We don't know if he's going to have that same speed and push that we know that a John Wall previous Achilles can have. We saw the great Kobe Bryant. May he rest in peace. Speaking of him, a year ago yesterday, that was the last picture we saw of him and his daughter. How heartening was that to see him going to that Lakers game. But anyways, the great Kobe Bryant, we saw him shoot 2 free throws on a torn Achilles. And he later quoted as saying it was hard because it's like something's burning on your legs. And he still walked off the court. That's not easy. And Achilles is nothing to mess with. When we see this Achilles and it's with Klay Thompson, we're talking about what the Warriors are going to miss this season without him. He's already had a bad ACL. Now he tears his Achilles. All these 3-point shots, how he comes off the ball, how he comes off the pick and roll. Sometimes he's off. He doesn't get a chance to set his feet. He shoots so eloquently off the ball without the ball. What kind of Klay Thompson will he have to miss his game? Will he have to change it around? What kind of Klay Thompson will we see coming back? Tristan and Loreal.
No, I think he'll be okay. It'll be an adjustment. He's going to have to adjust a little bit, but it's not going to be as drastic as you think offensively. Defensively, now, because we consider Klay Thompson to be one of the better two-way players in the game. Defensively, it's going to be hard because of how he can switch. That will probably be a challenge for him defensively, but offensively, no, because a shooter can shoot. A shooter is a shooter, and that's what Klay Thompson is. Now, he's underrated athletically, And so we saw flashes of that with him when he puts the ball on the floor and drives to the basket. Like those things, he's going to have to work a little extra harder and try to figure that out with that Achilles. But a shooter's going to shoot. He's going to be fine. I don't concern people like him and Kevin Durant. Shooters shoot. Like you, scores can score. Like there's nothing, you can't do anything to them unless you chop their hands off to keep them from scoring. Like that's who they are. Now with John Wall, the reason why John Wall scares me is because his entire game is predicated off of athleticism. So like Kobe Bryant was able to alter his game because Kobe Bryant learned how to be a shooter. And people remember when Kobe Bryant first came in, Kobe Bryant was a skywalker. Kobe Bryant was driving to the basket, was dunking over everybody and doing everything. When that Achilles went away, he had to alter his game and became a better shooter. He mastered his jump shot, his mid range, to still be effective on the floor. KD and Klay already got that. They already got that skill set. John Wall's, it's all predicated on athleticism. So when John Wall had the Achilles, I was like, that was more heartbreaking because I'm like, I still don't know what we're gonna get. I have no idea what we're gonna get from John Wall because he needs the athleticism to be who he is. Or if Russell Westbrook, God forbid, let me knock on wood for him. God forbid,
we still don't know where he gonna go.
Yeah, but God forbid if he tore his Achilles, I would think that's the end of his career because he can't shoot. Everything is predicated off him being athletic. So with Klay, it's going to be an adjustment, but I think we're still going to get the same Klay Thompson.
Loreal, Achilles, the injury, how will it affect Klay? Will it be as bad or not? And how about everybody else?
I'm actually going to disagree here. I feel like
y'all are switching on me. What's going on tonight?
I feel like the Achilles tear, it is going to affect your whole dynamic because in my perception, a basketball player's feet is pretty much a second set of eyes. So, and I agree with you, Tristan. Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson, they could shoot, but I feel like, and that specifically with Kevin Durant, when he shoot, he don't just, hop up and he shoot. He does a little crisscross, he likes to be crafty with it. And that's exactly how he tore his Achilles. He tried to be a little bit crafty with it. He moved a little bit too slightly off, and then boom, that Achilles happened. And I just feel like, and you know what? It kind of reminds me a little bit of Derrick Rose. A lot of times when I see Derrick Rose play, and I love him to death.
Yes.
His athleticism off the charts. I mean, if
that still breaks my heart.
If he never had those injuries, he definitely would have been up there. But but when he was recovering and when he was coming back, every single time he tried to drive into the lane, literally I will cringe because I'm just like, Lord have mercy. Please do not move or shift any kind of bone into his body. And I feel like, and I feel like too, like Klay, even if he is a spot up shooter, he is going to have that sense of like, oh my God, I really hope nothing happens because even though you're a spot up shooter, again, those are your feet. You got to move. And again, the feet is almost like a second set of eyes. So for spot up shooters like Klay, they know exactly where to go. They know exactly where to move. But with an Achilles tear, and specifically when it comes to feet injuries, it's really, really hard to recover from those injuries. And it's really, really hard to try to make adjustments to make sure those injuries don't happen again. Because again, it's the feet. You rely on the feet so much as a basketball player, and you put so much pressure on your feet. Whether you're driving to the lane, even the spot up shooters, they put a lot of pressure on the feet to make sure you get the right amount of bounce, the right amount of oomph to make sure you make that shot. So I feel like, I just feel like the Achilles is just one of those injuries where you really don't want to have it because if you have it, it's really going to mess with your psyche moving forward.
It's so how you used to be, you're going to be afraid to even try to push to be that because you don't want to be afraid of tearing again. What do you think about John Wall?
Again, John Wall, just like Derrick Rose, I feel like it's going to affect his psyche because again, he is a very special player who has this special kind of athleticism.
Yeah.
So when he tries to recover, he's probably going to be afraid to try to drive into the lane, do the crazy dunks like we know John Wall can do. And again, basketball is a mental game. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a mental game. When you have these injuries, they really mess up you physically and mentally. You know, and my thing is too is that, and I'm pretty sure when Klay Thompson was recovering the ACL, I honestly couldn't imagine, how he was feeling. I'm pretty sure, he had a heavy feeling some days, like
Mm.
pretty much like, can I really get over this? Because the ACL tear, especially if you have it multiple times, it's really, really hard to be a player, be the player that you used to be.
That you
That's
work.
why I
Mm-hmm.
feel so bad for Derrick Rose because he can never be the player that he used to be because
Mm.
of those reoccurring injuries time and again and again and again. He had ACL before, then he had the ACL again, then a meniscus tear, another meniscus tear, another leg injury, another leg injury. When these things happen over and over and over and over, and especially with how significant an Achilles and ACL tear is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's why you gotta feel bad for Klay Thompson because literally that is a double whammy. I
It
feel
is.
so bad for him. He literally do not deserve that at all.
Mm-mm.
The redemption. Now I gotta wait another year to see what I can
Right.
be able to bring to somebody else. This is very sad. I'm starting to almost tear up. This is becoming a Hallmark Channel moment. But we're not gonna do it. Because you're going to come back strong, baby. Anyways, this is episode 102 of Rolling with Ramos Loreal, the South Street sports speaker. Oh my God. I'm loving you, baby. I feel like I should be on an island listening to your voice just go off. But anyways, and I have my boy Tristan as always. It gets even sadder, guys, because the NBA, I know everybody was looking at the NBA this week, and we're going to continue to look at the NBA. If you're expecting some James Harden from us tonight, I didn't want to put it on there because I'm trying to wait for the hell of where he goes. And I'm starting to get pissed off because, yeah, he didn't take the extra money, but y'all are really, 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 really giving James Harden some good credit where 8 years of them things, 7, 8 years he spent with the damn Rockets. And we're talking about Russell Westbrook and what he can't do to this league anymore. Why the hell are we talking about James Harden? And now he going to demand he go to the Nets? You got some nerve. But anyway, we're gonna wait until it's all figured out. And we gotta talk about some Major League Baseball because somebody made some news big time. New York Mets second baseman Robinson Cano. You definitely coming with me. You sitting on the couch because you ain't playing next year. Test positive for the performance enhancing. This is a hard one, guys. I'm sorry. Stanozolol. How you take something out? You can't even pronounce that, brother. Stanozolol.
I don't know.
Stanozolol. 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 I'm gonna go with that,
We're
okay?
gonna go with it too.
And I'm never taking it. And we will be suspended for the entire 2021 season, according to a statement by MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred. It is the second PED because he's been here before. Suspension for Cano, who's 38, who missed 80 games in 2018 after testing positive for diuretic. Well, I got that one. Diuretic while he was still a Seattle Mariner. We are extremely disappointed to be informed about Robinson's suspension for violating Major League Baseball's Joint Drug Prevention and Treatment Program, Mets president Sandy Alderson said in a statement. The violation is very unfortunate for him, the organization, our fans, and the sport. The Mets fully support MLB's efforts toward eliminating performance-enhancing substances from the game. There are no immediate comments from Cano or the Players Union. A second positive test results in an automatic 162-game suspension, according to the joint drug agreement between Major League Baseball and MLB Players Association. Cano will forfeit his $24 million salary. Cano was traded to the Mets in a now faithful December 2018 deal that sent top prospect Jared Kelenic to the Mariners. After struggling in his first season with the team, he rebounded to hit .316, .352, and .544 this season, and was expected to play a significant role as the Mets played their first season under new owner Steve Cohen and new front office management. Cano, who previously signed a 10-year, $240 million deal, y'all, with the Mariners, has an additional $48 million that he will remaining on his contract for 2022 and 2023. The Mariners will pay down $7.5 million of that. In 16 seasons, he is a career .303 hitter with 334 homers, 1,302 RBIs, and 2 Gold Gloves. Cano became a star with the New York Yankees before signing with the Mariners. His ban during the 2018 season made him among the most prominent players penalized under baseball's anti-doping rules. At that time, Cano said diuretic was given to me by a licensed doctor in the Dominican Republic to treat a medical ailment. Cano said he didn't realize the drug was banned by MLB. That sounds like Canelo and this whole meat thing. But anyways, lastly, Cano has 2,624 career hits and Hall of Fame caliber statistics for a second baseman. But with his baseball future uncertain at age 38, he ain't getting no younger. His latest suspension certainly puts his pursuit of 3,000 hits and his chances for Cooperstown in serious jeopardy. Mike Wilbon, the legend Mike Wilbon, says, take the money, cut him, let him go. He says that the Mets should let him go and that damn contract. Do you agree? And how do we feel about Robinson Cano? One time you make a mistake, okay. And the second time you make a mistake, this might be a little bit consistent of you. Anybody?
We've talked about like two of the greatest players, arguably two of the greatest players to ever play baseball in Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, and they are still not in the Hall of Fame because of what they did with the steroid era. Robinson Cano, was considered for MVP nods and all of that, and was going to be placed as one of the best in the game. And you already been busted before for using performance enhancers. And then you try again to be busted for performance enhancers? Like, so who are you? Like, that's why I feel like when Wilbon said, like, you should just cut him, because it's like, well, who are you as a player? Because now, my thing is, you do it one time, okay, you try to get an edge, all right. But when you're a multi-offender, it's like, well, how long, what else have you used? What else have you used in your career to get you to be the player that you are?
Did you think you were going to get away with it this time?
Right. So it's just like, I just feel your play is false. Like, your skill set is false as far as what you do, as far as your strength, your speed. Like, that's false advertisement, because you've done this multiple times. So I don't really know who you are as a player. Like, for me, like when I talk about baseball and I talk about Barry Bonds, and I defend Barry Bonds more than I would defend Roger Clemens. The reason why I defend Barry Bonds more than I defend Roger Clemens as far as getting into the Hall of Fame is before the steroid era, Barry Bonds looked like a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, like he was already doing something.
You already saw he could play. You know what I'm saying? Now, the steroids elevated that as far as, getting the number. That's why I still recognize Hank Aaron as the home run king instead of Barry. But you knew you were looking at a Hall of Famer when you watched Barry Bonds play baseball. So even if you got to put an asterisk on him to get in the Hall of Fame, Barry Bonds should still be in the Hall of Fame. But for Robinson Cano, I really don't know who you are. I don't know what kind of player you are without being juiced. I don't know. So for me, I would cut my losses. I would, because I'm like, who's to say you're not going to do this again? I don't know what to tell you on that. Like, it's really the whole fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me tidbit. Like, I don't know what more has to be done to you for you to get it. So that's not going to be okay. You have guys that have Hall of Fame numbers that are not in the Hall because of this. Why do you feel that you should do it at this day and age? Makes no
You
sense to me.
and you, Loreal, he's 38 years old. Tristan, he's 38 years old.
Yeah,
What else? What do you have to lose at this point in time?
You're relatively still in your prime. In baseball years, you're still kind of in your prime at 38.
Robinson Cano, Loreal, how do you feel about it?
I feel like there's a more deeper issue in terms of these players using PEDs and other type of drugs that I feel like we haven't discussed, and I feel like people don't want to discuss. Again, looking at the service, yes, it doesn't make sense. Why would you, not only offend, make the offension the first time, but then do it the second time? Because MLB, they don't play when it comes to PEDs. If you do any type of those kind of drugs, you're going to find you're most likely going to get cut, things like that. But I feel like there's two specific elements in the situation that we need to look into this issue. The first thing is, obviously he made on the second offense. Now, in my perception, I feel like people do things for a reason. So in my perception, common sense will tell you, well, why would you do it the second time? But of course, knowing that these are performing enhancing drugs, and when you try to pronounce the name, it seems like a very complicated and perhaps much stronger drug than what we know it is. So
Right.
maybe, maybe there might be an issue where he just can't stop taking these drugs.
Oh wow.
Because I'm pretty sure the athletes, they take these PEDs for certain reasons, but just like you mentioned before, he initially, or in this case allegedly, was trying to take it as a way to relieve some pain. And that's another issue too. We've been hearing a lot of stories of players, from MLB, NBA, NFL, where, they go to these doctors, whether in America or the Dominican Republic, and they get these drugs specifically to heal themselves or some kind of ailment. Back in the NBA, DeAndre Ayton, he was
Mm.
suspended 5 games because he had a diuretic in the system in which he didn't know about, because he pretty much claimed, I was pretty much informed to take these drugs. I didn't know that it had a diuretic and, this were happening. Robinson Cano was saying the same thing. He went to this doctor in the Dominican Republic. He said that these drugs were specifically to help him with whatever issue he was dealing with, beyond trying to enhance his performance. And then this happened. So I really feel like there's a much deeper issue into why these players are taking these drugs, number one. And number two, if they're taking these drugs as a way to help them, why is it that, they keep offending these tests? And I mean, obviously, we know that they're offending these tests because these are PEDs, but I do feel like, if players are taking these drugs to help themselves beyond enhancing their performance, I do feel like maybe some leagues could be a little bit more lenient as far as their rules. But again,
Yeah.
rules are rules, and when it comes to MLB, they pretty much don't play when it comes to PEDs.
If we're staying on the mental aspect, you guys, and you bring it up, L'Oreal, we're staying on the mental aspect. How much more of it is I gotta if he didn't come off of a good season and he's trying to prove his worth still to the Mets, it's the pressure.
I think I think it's I think that can play a toll, but I would in regards to the mental health aspect of excuse me. In regards to the mental health aspect of it, I think I would more so pertain that to what L'Oreal was saying in regards to the pain threshold and recovery. Because
Yeah.
that is one thing I do think about, especially for well, no, not even that. It's for all the sports, because when you think about baseball, sometimes they have back-to-back games, and their body is just beaten up from the day before. Same thing with basketball. You have a back-to-back game. You might have 2 games in a week that you're trying to recover from and still play at that kind of high level. So they need something that helps them recover. Same thing with football. Some especially now when you got games that come on Thursdays and stuff like that, some of these teams got short weeks. Their body needs time to recover. So I do believe that as a whole, sports as a whole needs to take a deeper look into what's being taken and then what it's being taken for. Because if you're paying these guys lots of money to play at a certain level, and you want them to play at a certain level every single game, but they're still human. They might be the best humans in the world as far as physically, but they're still human. And like you're gonna have muscle aches, you're gonna have bones that are aching and all this stuff. So especially as you get older, and they're like, I need to be able to recover quickly so that I can play at this maximum level that I just played for the next game. So that is something to really look into. So mentally, when you're thinking about it, these guys are always hurt. One thing my coach used to always say, I don't want to hear you if you're hurt, because you're always hurt. I want to hear you if you're injured. That was always his thing.
Wow.
Because you're always going to be hurt during the season. There's no way to avoid it. Playing football, it's too physical. Everything is bang. I played linebacker. Everything is a bang. I'm banging with somebody. I'm either banging with a lineman, I'm banging with a tight end, I'm banging with a running back. Somehow, some way, I'm hitting. So I'm aching every other day.
That Epsom salt is on. That's waiting for you when you get home.
Epsom salt is always in my house. When I was playing when I was younger, Epsom salt was always waiting for me. God bless my mom. She used to always have the tub ready for me with that Epsom salt when I came home from the game. She understood. Like, and it's a real, it's a real thing. Like, your body is always aching, but are you injured or are you hurt? It's two different things. So imagine now, that's me playing at high school level and stuff like that, playing my senior year and such. These guys are playing where they are 200 something pounds running full, like 20. DK Metcalf is 240 pounds and ran 22 miles an hour. Can you imagine something like that coming at you full speed and hitting you? Your body is going to hurt. So you need the chance to be able to recover. So I do think
Gatorade ain't gonna do it.
It's not gonna do it. I think in this day and age, and the only reason why I was so mad about Cano is because he was a multi-offender. But I honestly think in this day and age, we don't have people that are like Canelo. We don't have people that are like the Boz or anything like that. These athletes, when they get popped for these things, I think they more so are saying, I only took this because I thought it would help my body recover quickly. I only took this for the pain that I'm feeling, and I'm trying to move past that so I can play this next game. They're not playing it to say I'm trying to get an edge. I'm trying to get a level up on. No, they're like, I need something that's going to help me be ready to go again next week doing what I do.
So rules are rules, like Loreal just said, but maybe we need to change the narrative on PEDs.
I think sports
and understanding them more.
Yes, I think they need to take a deeper look into that. Absolutely.
Going back to the NFL, guys, the Rams 23, the Seahawks 16. A lot of people want to talk a lot of junk about the Seahawks, and they've been losing lately, and Russell Wilson ain't this and that. We still got a long way to go. Saints 27, 49ers. That wasn't the score because I wrote 27, but the Saints beat the 49ers. Steelers 36, Bengals 10. Are you drinking that Steeler Kool-Aid? Because you said that the Bengals was going to give them a problem. They beat the Bengals, They're still undefeated. Ben Roethlisberger hurting all, y'all. Patriots 23. Ravens took a hard one in prime time. 17. Vikings 19. Bears 13. A lot of rumbling. First of all, Mike Skula. I did not like that the fact that his wife is getting attacked in her DMs because y'all are mad that he didn't snap the ball. At some point, as fans, y'all got to dissect this because this is between life and football or sport in life. Calm down. That's
stupid.
I agree. But we got to go back. Loreal and Tristan, because we got to talk about the Saints. Y'all know why we got to talk about the Saints, because not all of them marching in. One of them got to sit down, and it was a big one. New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees suffered multiple rib fractures on both sides of his chest and a collapsed lung on his right side, according to ESPN's Ed Werder. The injuries were suffered over a 2-week period, so at some point, Drew Brees was not he was trying to play through something, or he wasn't thinking that it was that serious. And then here we go. It was suffered over a 2-week period. The quarterback is expected to miss 2 weeks. When the Saints came out of the locker room at halftime during Sunday's game against the 49ers, it was Jameis Winston who entered the game, not Brees. It is unknown whether the Saints will rely on the backup QB Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston. L'Oreal, we've been talking about this on this show. Tristan's mentioned it on this show that if this is Breeze's last hurrah, if a lot of people are believing that he may retire after this year, he wants to retire with this ring. The Saints, I mean, it's been productive. They've been doing the best they can. Drew Brees is looking his age. But at the same time, if this is the scenario where we're trying to paint this picture that this is it, and we want to see him reach the highest pinnacle on this is it, this injury does not help it. How did you feel when you heard about this injury and the impact that it was? I mean, this guy has been suffering, it seems, for 2 weeks, and then finally something hit the fan where it didn't work anymore. How does it change that perspective now? And what do you feel about this Drew Brees injury?
When I first heard the injury, I don't know why, but for some reason this year, there's like a lot of patterns going on. Because, you know, in the very beginning of the season, Tyrod Taylor, he got punched in the lung by the doctor. And then, you know, hearing this about Drew Brees, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, what is going on? Like, what is going on? But again, you know, this is a very devastating injury. But I just feel like with Drew Brees is a really special quarterback. And what I mean by that is that when you compare him to like the likes of Tom Brady has definitely prepared his body to be able to play that at the age, you know, at what he's at. And I feel like he can play maybe a couple years or more. Now, if Drew Brees didn't have this injury, I do feel like that. Like, Drew Brees is a very unique quarterback. Drew Brees has always been able to have, you know, one of the best offenses. Unfortunately, Michael Thomas been out for almost 9 weeks. You know, that's been killing my fantasy, but that's another person. But besides that, you know, thankfully they have been able to, you know, to push through with having, you know, Taysom Hill and having Alvin Kamara. But I would say, though, I'm pretty sure the Saints are missing Teddy Bridgewater because, you know, when Drew Brees was out, Teddy Bridgewater came in, and they was 5-0 as a starter. And Jameis Winston, you know, you try so hard not to dislike him because he is a pretty, you know, decent dude, and you know he is talented. But to be 36-36, that's not good at all. So definitely in the long run, you know, I'm pretty sure Jameis will be able to help the Saints, you know, considering that it is only for 2 weeks, but I don't feel like it's really over yet for Drew Brees. I feel like Drew Brees is still trying to break more record books. And, you know, Drew Brees, he doesn't have a lot to lose, but I'm pretty sure he's probably thinking, well, you know, if I have a couple more years to try to give it another go, then I might as well give it another go. Because I'm pretty sure the Saints haven't really been looking at trying to get another, you know, young quarterback or just another option.
They're not the Green Bay Packers who get it while the person's still.
Listen.
Did I strike a nerve or what?
No. She struck a nerve because I'm gonna tell you why. Drew Brees ain't got a couple years. Okay? And the reason why I say that is because Mrs. Brees is not gonna let him do a couple more years of this. The man has multiple rib fractures and a collapsed lung. She not gonna let that man keep going out there playing football like that. That's just not gonna happen. It's not. She, the thing, I liked how you did the Tom Brady and Drew Brees comparison, but the difference with Tom Brady and Drew Brees is Tom Brady is 6'4". Tom Brady is like 230 something pounds. Tom Brady's a big man. Drew Brees ain't that big. So when a 300-pound man is landing on Drew Brees, he's going to crush him. He's not a big man at all. And for me, it just seems like something is not quite right with the Saints. Even with him being in there, it's just something don't look the same as I saw it a couple, the last 2 years. And I'm not saying they don't have a shot, but for me, my concern for Drew Brees is the fact that he's saying, like, give it 2 weeks. Everyone's saying, he's saying the report is like 2 weeks, he'll be out, he'll be back. I don't want you coming back 2 weeks when you have multiple rib fractures and a collapsed lung at your age and your size.
I mean, Matthew Stafford, he's been playing for broken ribs.
Matthew Stafford.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right.
But Matthew Stafford's but Matthew Stafford ain't a small man either. Like, these guys, there's some of them can take it. Some of them can their bodies can deal. Drew Brees is not that man to me. He's just not that size of a man to take that on. And for me, if I'm the Saints, unless it looks like all hell is breaking loose on the team with Jameis Winston being the quarterback, or Taysom Hill, whoever, I would let him sit for a little bit, at least get a little closer to the playoffs. And then I'm like, all right, Drew, we need you to come back. I'm not going to rush him to come back when you had a collapsed lung. I'm just not. That's just for me. That's my fear for him, because don't think defenders are not going to try and hit him. Like, we know, like, if you're hurting, I'm going to hit you. I'm going to hit you because I don't want to take your career away. But if there's a way that I can get you out, that I got to force your team to put a lesser player in there for my team to win, I'm going to do it. So that's my fear for him.
The interesting thing about this, Loreal, is typically this is me and him doing this. And it's interesting that we haven't had a guest on in a while for you guys to switch the perspectives as you're switching it and agreeing and not agreeing with each other. But you bring up something very important in regards to him and you guys talking. Matthew Stafford has been playing with rib on top of rib injuries. We're talking about Drew Brees now. We got to throw somebody in there that's retired, because if we're looking at this scenario, we remember a guy named Andrew Luck, right? So how long, if we're putting him in a situation and we're putting him into this little bubble, how long does Drew Brees have? How long does Matthew Stafford have? Because he took himself out.
Yeah, but
outside of that offensive line and the fact that the Colts couldn't. Yeah, I get it.
I was about to say, because neither one of those guys took as many hits as Andrew. Neither one of them. It's only because Andrew is like country strong is how he was able to last as long as he lasted.
What is he, a Ford truck? Built Ford truck?
Did you see him? Did you see him? And he basically looked like like the white version of Cam. It was that kind of big, strong size. Like, oof, he could do it, but he took so many hits. And Drew Brees ain't take that many hits, and Stafford ain't take that many hits. He had what was a lacerated spleen, and then it was his throwing shoulder. He got beat up over there in Indianapolis. And I miss Andrew. I wish Andrew come back and play for the Patriots. That's just me. I would love to see it, but shipping
Cam out already?
I don't think Cam fits what Bill wants to do.
Loreal,
so
Andrew Luck.
That's how I'm looking at it.
Andrew Luck, Drew Brees, Matthew Stafford.
I definitely agree. It's very unfortunate what happened to Andrew Luck, because he definitely was a promising quarterback, but
generational.
I do agree with Tristan in terms of the timetable. Yes, 2 weeks seems really unrealistic. Consider that you have broken rib fractures and you have a collapsed lung. That's a lie.
It's a lie.
Honestly, I really want to know who's the doctor because it's no way you could just be like, "Oh, you'll be fine in 2 weeks." Like,
Yeah, they're trying to force him to be okay so that it wouldn't hurt their chances at the playoffs. That's really what it looks like to
if
me.
I would give an estimate, I will probably just say maybe
A
not even
month,
2 weeks.
yeah, or at
But
least
of
at
course,
the
the
very least
Saints
a
not going to do
month.
that. But of course,
Right,
the Saints not going to do that because they're neck and neck with like the Bucks in the division, so they're not going to go.
exactly.
Oh, you can come back come playoff time. It'll be fine. No, they can't
But
do that.
I
but
think if they're,
Loria, no, go ahead.
I know, I was just gonna say, I think if their record was a little better, I think they might have done that. I think they would have been, or like you said, if they had Teddy, they'd have been like, nah, Drew, just sit, wait till the playoffs. So we know that you're 100% healthy. Because here's the thing that also makes me concerned with it. Some of the rib fractures he had in the game prior, and they didn't even say anything. That's what really scared me. They were saying that because I was wondering why he had that huge flak jacket on Sunday. I was like, why is he wearing that huge flak jacket? He had rib issues in the game prior. So you mean to tell me y'all just been getting this guy banged up and
They said
not
it's a
saying,
2 week buildup.
yeah. So he's just been getting banged up and y'all ain't saying nothing. Y'all just waited till he had to take himself out of the game. Y'all weren't even going to take him out of the game. If he didn't say anything to Sean Payton, he would have kept playing. Like that's ridiculous. You got to take care of your guy. And so for me to say 2 weeks with a collapsed lung, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Makes no sense to me.
One, I'm a person that likes to think of my jokes, and the fact that I said it was Andrew Luck built Fort Tough, and we got somebody from Detroit on the show. Any of your family members ever worked in one of them factories?
No, not. I don't think Ford, but definitely I have a lot of family members that work in factories in Michigan.
See, staying with you, L'Oreal. And then Tristan, you could follow up. We're talking about Teddy Bridgewater as if he's the backup messiah or something like that. But we saw what Drew Brees being out and him picking up the slack for New Orleans. We saw what it did to his career because a lot of people forgot Teddy Bridgewater can ball. Y'all forgot about that injury and what he was doing with the Vikings prior. Y'all forgot about that.
Facts.
We're not. So are we saying, because if we're saying 2 weeks is like 2 weeks is the definitive point because we don't know how the hell the Saints gonna look. Are we saying that this is not going to be the same emergence for Jameis Winston? He is not going to be able to turn it around and show his worth as a Teddy Bridgewater and then be able to move on. We're not going to see. That's not the same guy. Are we looking at that, L'Oreal? Is Jameis not that guy?
I wouldn't say that Jameis not that guy, but Jameis is one of those quarterbacks where things can go really good and things can go really bad. And
Yep.
and like I said, like 36 touchdowns, 36 interceptions, that's not good. I don't want a quarterback with that kind of resume. So I just feel and the thing is, if it is 2 weeks, I don't think it's a huge deal. You know, hopefully Jameis won't lose both games. Maybe he'll win one, he'll lose one. Maybe he'll win both. It just depends on the schedule. But in my opinion, I definitely would pick Teddy Bridgewater over Jameis Winston. Just because Jameis Winston it's basically his consistency is what makes people kind of cringe when you look at quarterbacks.
I never seen a quarterback that could have been defensive player of the year. I ain't never seen it a day in my life. I ain't never seen it. And so y'all trying to tell me that we supposed to be okay with Jameis starting. Listen, the man not only did he throw that
He
many
giving away
interceptions,
interceptions.
not only did he do that, but I think like 6 or 8 of them went back for touchdowns. Like he legit could have been defensive player of the year, and there would have been no argument. Like that is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And and he was like that in Florida State. And that's the thing. That was one of the concerns that he had coming out of the draft. The difference between him and Marcus Mariota being number one or not was the fact that Jameis has this whole where they call that I heard them saying no risk it, no biscuit. He has that mentality. Like he's like, it's all guns blazing. Like we gonna chuck this thing. It's either gonna, just like Loreal said, it's either gonna be real good. You're gonna be like, oh my God, what a throw. Or you're gonna say, oh my God, what were you thinking? It's always it's one of the two. So it's just like, they thought I remember that draft. They thought Jameis would they could clean it up and get him out of that, and it just hasn't manifested. So I don't see how that. If it's longer than 2 weeks, I'm concerned. As a matter of fact, when Drew Brees got hurt, right? When Drew Brees got hurt, the first thing I said? First thing I said was the Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl. That was the first thing I said because I was like, who else is going to stop them? The only team that's been able to really beat them up are the Saints with Drew Brees at the helm. If it's not Drew Brees at the helm, who's going to stop?
They had Tom Brady looking like how Tom Brady was looking before they were able to come back and win that Super Bowl because he was on that bench line.
Exactly, and except this time he couldn't come back.
I want y'all to clap your hands for me because we got a celebration in order. If we're really going to celebrate, these aren't the things we really celebrate. But I figured, he used to be a guy that I liked, believed in just a little bit. How I liked that, and he got his first win. He got his first win on Monday Night Football. What is
God.
he? 1-7?
1-6. 1-9.
1-9 on Monday Night Football. Shout out to Kirky. Shout out to Kirk Cousins. You finally got one when the street lights came on, brother. We could.
Can I say he really should have lost? If you watched the game.
That was a Snoreville. I turned that off.
The only reason he won was because Nick Foles was worse.
Nick Foles was horrible. Khalil Mack gets an interception. I wanted Khalil Mack to run that in. But gets an interception. And you turn around. Y'all got on the 50-yard line. You couldn't do nothing with that.
Yeah, that's the only reason was that Nick Foles was worse. It's the only reason Kirk won. Kirk had one of those bad games of Kirk's. He had one of them.
He had one of those bad games of Kirk's. That's what we calling them now.
I call them Kirk.
Way too many bad games.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. He should be 0-10. He really should be 0-10 on Monday Night Football.
Well, he finally got one in prime. I don't know what Sunday Night Football's going like.
He better send Nick Foles a gift because that's what happened. Nick Foles was Santa Claus for him on Monday.
I'm surprised Minnesota's even 3-5. Like I was like, wow.
Ow. Ow.
And only Adam Thielen.
It's not as terrible as the Jets, but just the way
it's up there.
Just like
it's
they
up
literally
there.
just like sunk. And I get it. You don't have Stephon Diggs, but still to just sink like that.
Two of the wins is because of Dalvin Cook. That's why. 2 of those wins are Dalvin Cook's wins. And so that's how I look at it. But the fact that it's like that for them and they still got to deal with his contract for 2 more years is ridiculous.
I feel bad for Adam Thielen. I feel bad for Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
I like Adam Thielen. And to have a yes, get the hell out of there. To have and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but to have a Edelman-esque type of guy.
He's a little better than Edelman.
Yeah.
He's an Edelman plus.
Adam Thielen is so great. And
he's really good.
You caught him a couple of times on that sideline looking like, what the hell can I do?
What? He looked like he wanted to choke Kirk Cousins a few times.
Well, he got one. Anyways, you're on the clock, ladies and gentlemen. Rolling with Rainbow's draft style. You're on the clock because the 2020 NBA draft is finally in the books as it lived up to its expectations of being an intriguing and watchable draft. Most teams made selections as expected, while other teams took risks and gambles. That writing, those specific words I just said, they should sound like something you should know, Loreal, because they came from you. And your article on your beautiful article, make sure you read it. And I'm gonna run this down and we're gonna play a little game in honor of you. You can't say I ain't never done nothing for you, girl. I expect presents. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, okay? Just remember that. I'll send you my address after this. Running some pics that you saw that we broke the news. Rolling with Rainbow's breaking news, baby. If you haven't seen our Rolling with Rainbow's new revamp page, if you haven't been able to see the news that we've been breaking, the stuff that we've been posting, make sure you get your RRWR news and your sports news from us. Plug. Anyways, how you plug when you already on the show? Whatever. But anyways, number one, the Timberwolves select Georgia's Anthony Edwards. Number two, the Warriors select James Wiseman. We talked about that. LaMelo, whose house is it? I don't know if it's Michael Jordan's house or LeVar Ball's house.
It's
But
Michael
either
Jordan's house.
way, LaMelo, he's going to Charlotte. LaMelo and Lonzo Ball are the first brothers. Shout out to that black boy Magic. They are the first brothers selected top 5 in NBA history. Number 4, Patrick Williams is selected by the Chicago Bulls. Number 5, Isaac Okoro selected what a story from him.
Yeah.
But he was selected number 5 overall by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Onyeka Okongwu selected number 6 by the Atlanta Hawks. We're gonna play a game courtesy of Loreal. A, B, C, D, F. That's all you got.
Okay.
The teams that you feel gets those grades.
Well, definitely, in referring back to my article, I gave the Warriors and the Timberwolves A-. I feel like the Warriors, they did a really good job in the draft, considering that you had the number 2 pick. This is the first time that they had such a very, very high pick in a long time, I believe, since they drafted Steph Curry. It's number 9. So I feel like when you had that number 2 pick, you got to pick Wiseman. And you got to pick Wiseman because that center position is a little bit questionable. Yes, you have David Pascal. Yes, you have Kevin Looney. But to get a young guy in James Wiseman that's 7'1", he's athletic, he can post up, he can defend, he could be a rim protector. You have to snag that person, and I feel like they did that. But I also feel like Nico Mannion from Arizona, that was a steal because considering that Klay Thompson is out again, and just like Tristan mentioned before, there is going to be a lot of difficulties with how Steve Kerr is going to see how this offense is going to work, and more specifically how they're going to score. I feel like Nico can really be one of those, hot shooters coming off the bench. When he was back in Arizona as a freshman, he was the only player that shot 34% from the field, and Arizona definitely benefited from that. So I feel like the Warriors going to benefit from that. But I would say though, and this is going to be a little bit biased, but the Detroit Pistons, they made me happy. They made me happy. They made me happy, and I'm gonna tell you why. And also, I honestly want every Detroit Pistons fan to be watching this because I'm going to spill you.
We're gonna make them.
You're not gonna like me. Trust me. As a Detroit native, as a Detroit fan, specifically a Lions fan, I have to literally force myself to be optimistic and positive, even though sometimes certain weeks I just want to rip my hair off. But definitely with this draft, I was happy. And the reason why I was happy is that when you look at the draft, the most important thing besides getting talent is to basically fill your roster and to fill those roster needs. And when you look at Detroit is in a rebuilding phase. Detroit fans, you guys got to get into your heads that we're not going to have a star next year, 2 years, 3 years, even 5 years. That's not going to happen. Detroit is not an attractable market. We pretty much got Blake Griffin for free because the Clippers he's pretty much on his last leg. We just got to get rid of him. And of course, Detroit, what else we got to lose? Of course you're going to get Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin, and the thing is, with Blake Griffin is healthy, he is very dominant. And when Blake Griffin came to Detroit, he did improve his jump shot, and he did look like that fundamental big man that a lot of people wanted him to be. But of course, when he was younger, Blake Griffin was only really known mainly for athleticism. But going to the draft picks, I feel like Detroit hit it on the nose with making sure they got every single pick they need. I think Killian Hayes, the fact that Detroit could have traded up to get LaMelo, but decided to stay at number 7, and they got Killian Hayes, one of the only available French and international players that was the best available. I feel like that was a steal. Killian Hayes, I feel like he's going to make a lot of noise. Will Bynum has already been working with him for the last couple of months. He likes this kid. Killian Hayes, he's crafty. He's one of those playmakers. He's not a good shooter, but I feel like considering the fact that Detroit did go to number 7, I feel like they should have got a point guard that's able to make those plays and to be a playmaker, considering that we probably wasn't gonna get LaMelo anyway. So that was a good pick. Isaiah Stewart was a good pick. You have a post scorer, because now that you don't have Drummond, and now that Christian Wood might be out of the move, you need a big man that's able to score in the post. So you have Stewart. You have Sadiq Bey and Sadon Lee. And these are two good shooters. And what I want Detroit fans and just people to understand is that Detroit is in a rebuilding mode. There's no way we can't get a star. Lots of people was probably looking at the draft like, well, who are these people? These are nobodies. Well, of course they're nobodies. We don't have the number 1 pick. We don't have the number 2 pick. We don't have the number 5 pick. And unfortunately, Detroit, they had the chance to be able to get one of those picks, but they didn't. So I feel like Troy Weaver, who is the new GM for Detroit, I feel like he hit it right on the nose. He knew exactly what we needed. He knew exactly what to fill, and I feel like when you're a GM in the draft, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to fill roster spots, but also take risks.
B, C, D, and F. Or matter of fact, you know what? For the sake of the timing, let's go so you gave us your A. Who's your F? Who did the worst job in the draft to you?
I feel like who did the worst job in the draft, I would say possibly Houston, and I will say Portland. Now, with Houston, of course, we don't know what
the hell is going on.
Harden wants to leave. Westbrook wants to leave. Everybody wants to leave. It's just a whirlwind. And their pick, Kenyon Martin Jr. With this pick, it's not like he's not a good player for them, but considering where they're at right now, I kind of feel bad for him because, I don't know where his fit is going to be. I don't know how he's going to fit. I don't know if he's going to be able to be a promising rookie or anything like that. So I feel like with Houston, they kind of did bad because of that. Now we go to Portland. When we look at CJ Ellaby, when you look at a player and you look at how they are defensively, his defensive instincts are very crystal clear. He knows exactly where to go. He knows exactly how to post up, move, and all of that. The offensively, though, is different. Offensively, his percentages are really, really low. And not only are they low from three-point range, it's 33%, they're really low from just, shooting from the field, 33%. I don't want a player that has a defensive prowess, but they can't score from it.
And that's what Damian Lillard needs to do. He needs to be able to kick it out to somebody that can shoot.
Right.
Yeah, and most importantly, if I'm Portland, I want to get a player that can help you. I want to get a player that can help relieve, the pressure off of Lillard as well as McCollum as well. So if I get a guy where he is probably a really good defensive player like Nurkic, but you can't score, I mean, what can you do with it? So I would say those are my two teams where they have F.
Who's your middle ground? I said I was going to do this, but who gets a C? Who didn't do that bad but could have been better?
I would say Atlanta, and the Hawks always fall into basically what I was talking about in my article, like this little rabbit hole. When you look at last year's draft, they drafted Cam Reddish and Kevin Hurt. Cam Reddish, he is a talented player, but how is he going to fit? And I feel like when they drafted Nick Okongwu for USC, yes, he is a good center. You know, he can defend, he can post up, but it's like, how is he going to fit? Because you already have Clint Capella, you already have Josh Collins, so it's like, and I'm pretty sure Atlanta is probably going to get rid of those players. But again, Atlanta's in this position again where they're having draft picks that they're basically just there. And if I'm Atlanta and I have a very gifted player and Trae Young, I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? I can't just be complacent and just get these kind of players just because I feel like, and I don't know, maybe Atlanta was in a rush thinking, oh, well, you know, we got to get this player now. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But I do feel like if you wanted to get this player, I really hope that you have the intentions of starting him. Because Atlanta is going to have to go young. Because you know you have Trae Young, you have Cam Reddish, those boys. You put them in, I feel like that's going to be a good thing for Atlanta.
Tristan, you got a tough act to follow, brother. You got A, C, and F. You got your A who did the best job. You got your C who could have done better but did okay. And you got the worst of the worst. Give them an F.
So I do have a tough act to follow because, you know, I just feel like she knows more than I would about some of these players in the depth. So
woohoo, not Tristan knows best, brother.
Hey, you know, listen, I can yield to some things.
Tristan knows everything. He's a car salesman. He's a trust me.
No.
He can do it. He's a jack of all trades. Either he's a jack of all trades, or I don't know how to do nothing. So I asked my friend, and I get it done, baby.
I try. No, I try. What I will say, I gave the Timberwolves an A. I gave the Timberwolves an A for Anthony Edwards because I believe he's someone that can be a very good scorer in the NBA. His size, his athleticism, what he could do on the floor. The thing that people don't recognize with him, well, in this draft in general, you didn't have a bona fide superstar player, superstar prospect. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You didn't have that. You didn't have
Zion
LeBron
this year.
You didn't have you didn't have Zion. You didn't have LeBron. You didn't have Shaq. You didn't have that guy where it was like no question, no brainer. But I love Anthony Edwards' overall game. I love his game. And I feel like with the Timberwolves, you know, to have Cat and them boys out there, I think he could be that scorer that they're missing, that they wanted Jimmy Butler to be. I think he could be a Jimmy Butler plus. I think he has a very good offensive repertoire. And I think he wasn't talked about enough because he played at Georgia. Georgia's not really known as a big-time college basketball school per se. And more, you know, everybody knows him as a football school, but he's very skilled. So I gave the Timberwolves an A. I gave the Knicks like a C. I was leaning between B plus and C.
You still can't get on Prime. Please don't put them on Christmas. We don't want to see any more Knicks games on Christmas.
But here's the reason. The reason why I did that is because I was actually, I don't know how you felt about this, Loreal, but I was actually very surprised that Obi Toppin fell to 8. I was actually really surprised about that. I thought he was a top 4, top 5 prospect out of Dayton. And so for the Knicks to get him just out of box office purposes, I know they can't have people in the stadium and stuff like that, but Madison Square Garden needs that guy to be the Flash for them. Be the box office star. And he was a Skywalker in Dayton. I mean, the man had 107 dunks, and it was like a constant highlight reel. But he's not just a highlight. Like he has great game, great size, very good with both hands, can finish with both hands. A willing defender. I'm not going to call him a great defender, but a willing defender. I think it'll be good. The reason why I'm saying like B plus C is because I felt like You had Halliburton. What was his name? Was it? Hey, Halliburton available.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, Tyrese Halliburton. You still had him available. You still had Cole Anthony out there. I know people weren't too high on him, but they had to understand he got injured when he was at North Carolina, and North Carolina had a horrible season. So, but you had two guards there with a team that needs a guard. Like RJ Barrett needs someone to run to the ball for him to flourish the way he did at Duke. And Frank Kellentina, I always mess up his name. He's not it for the point guard position. I felt like they could have taken one, especially Halliburton. Halliburton's one of like the more complete point guards that came out in this draft. And so for him to be there still and to not take him, it kind of made me scratch my head. But I understand Obi Toppin falling to you like that. I was kind of surprised. So I kind of understand why you would do that. The only pick that really made me scratch my head, and I have it in front of me right now just so I can make sure I'm not tripping. The only one that really made me scratch my head, and I'm not going to give it an F. I'm going to give it a D because I'm going to respect the fact that I don't get paid to do what they do. So they must know something I don't know. The Chicago Bulls at number 4 for Patrick Williams. That really, I didn't understand. I was just like, who is this guy? And I watched college basketball. I'm just like, who is this guy? I had to really look. I had to go and look. And then I realized he wasn't even a starter. Like, he was coming off a bench. You drafted someone at number 4 that was coming off the bench? And Chicago, honestly, the only reason we don't talk about Chicago the way we talk about the Knicks is because we were spoiled seeing Michael Jordan in the 90s, and then we were spoiled for a brief moment watching Derrick Rose.
And we were really spoiled watching The Last Dance.
Exactly. But really, Chicago really should be talked about in the realm of what the Knicks got going on. Like, you don't have anybody, and I kept telling people that. Like, I said, Zach LaVine, after that injury he had, he's not the same player as he was when he was in Minnesota. He's just not the same guy. I kept saying that about Zach LaVine. It's the same thing I felt about. I'm gonna go to that next part. I wasn't sure what Chicago was doing with that pick. I'm still not sure. No one has said anything to convince me that at number 4, that you can go with that. Especially when like Obi Toppin was still there at number 4. Like Obi Toppin would have been a perfect fit for them. I didn't understand that at all.
You're just still reeling off the management of the Chicago Bulls that after all these years, and if we particularly are watching The Last Dance, they continue to shoot themselves in the foot.
They really do. And I think they shot this up. It's like, you do that pick, you're saying we know something that no one else in the NBA knows. Because I know nobody was thinking that he was going to go at number 4. I'm pretty certain of that. So I'm curious to see how that looks. Another one, I would say I give about probably a C- would be the Magic.
Yeah.
The Magic would be another one. And the reason why is because I didn't understand why you didn't get a power forward or a small forward. And the reason why I say that is because I've said this for a long time. Aaron Gordon is a poor man's Blake Griffin. That's really what he is. His skill set is very limited, and we're so in awe because of the dunk contest, which he should have won, by the way. I'm quick to say that. But
Dwayne Wade. We looking at you.
He should have won, but he is a poor man's Blake Griffin. Like, he's so limited as a scorer, and that he's not enough of a defensive player to say, well, he's got the defensive side, i.e. like when we watch Ben Wallace. Like, Ben Wallace wasn't an all-world scorer, but Ben Wallace was a great defender. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I
Certain
felt like
guys
you
that
could have
can give
gotten
you something if they have nothing.
you could have gotten another for it for you to get. I believe it was Cole Anthony. Am I correct? I'm correct about that. I
Yes, it
believe it
was
was.
Cole Anthony.
So for you to get Cole Anthony after what you saw Markel Fultz do, as you see Markel Fultz is kind of coming into form, and to me they're kind of the same guy. So I'm like, I don't know how you would put them on the floor together. You're basically, I'm looking at it that you're saying Cole Anthony is going to come off the bench and relieve him, but you're not helping anything else. And then you got Jackson, Mr. I won't take a knee for Black Lives Matter. He got hurt in the bubble, so he's going to be out for a certain amount of time. So you didn't really answer anything by getting Cole Anthony. I felt like they were like, oh, Cole Anthony's here, we're just going to take him like that. You didn't. I don't think they had any kind of strategy, because if you look at their floor, if you look at their starters, you need a power forward. You really need a power forward. You need a power forward. You need another guard, a two guard to be out there with Markel Fultz. And at some point, you got to let this Aaron Gordon experiment go, because his ceiling is he's hit it. It's not going to get any better.
And
He's
I
not
think
going to be any
regardless why
better.
they chose Anthony was because, just like you said, they're letting that experiment go. And Markel Fultz, he could go into the two spots. So I feel like when they was looking at Cole Anthony, and basically when you look at Cole Anthony's profile, he is a guard that is very special defensively.
Yep.
And when I did the grade, I pretty much gave it a B because I was looking at the perception is that, well, you have this guard, where basically he's not the best offensively. That will take some work, but defensively, I feel like to be a guard and to be that good defensively, I feel like Orlando was probably looking at that and maybe saying, well, maybe we could get a little bit of finesse, in the defense without actually getting a power forward or a shooting guard. And a lot of people probably be like, well, that's ridiculous. But I mean, no, it's not ridiculous. That's why wing players exist, so that you can have some finesse on the defensive end. Because the truth of the matter is, when you look at, just like you say, Aaron Gordon, supporter man, Blake Griffin, and just looking at the big man position, the big man position is not traditional. The
It's
big
not.
man position, they have to literally do everything. So a lot of times, and I'm pretty sure a lot of teams was looking at their rosters and looking at drafts, they probably just want to pick a player where, yeah, he's not a power forward, he's not a center, but maybe one specific element that he has that a center don't have, maybe we could try to finesse some way by getting that player. And I believe that's what Orlando was doing with Cole Anthony. I feel like that's what a lot of teams were doing with specific players. They was looking beyond the position. They was looking
Compensating
at,
for no big man,
But
because this
see,
is a no big man league anymore.
but I feel like in that you could have picked Precious. Precious was still on the board. Like I just didn't. I get Cole Anthony is a very special talent defensively. I get all that, but and maybe I got to just see it. But I'm imagining, how are you? You're not going to want to take Markel Fultz offensive gifts off the floor. So I just want to see how that's going to coexist. And I never thought about that. You said that they could maybe use Markel as more of a combo guard, I guess, and have him at times at the two. So that'll be interesting to see. He does have the size he could do it if he wanted to, size wise. I guess I got to see it. I just felt like I just knew they were going for a forward. I was certain of that. Like I was just watching, and I'm watching some of the names that were still on the board, and I was so certain. So it kind of surprised me to see that they didn't do that.
Are we off the clock? Any last words?
Um, as I'm looking at these teams, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Man, the Bucks. Wow. I mean, Listen, Wednesday morning, they were up here, okay? Wednesday, they were up here. And then since Wednesday night going into the day, they're down here. For that trade to fail,
Yeah.
I, and then they got RJ Hampton. And I like RJ. I like RJ. But I felt like you went and you did the trade that you did to get Drew Holiday. And then you went and got RJ Hampton. I'm trying to understand. I'm looking at you, Loreal, because maybe you understand it better than me. But I'm just like, the trade you did to get Drew Holiday, what you traded, and then you still ended up drafting RJ Hampton. I'm just trying to understand it.
Yeah, and I would say the draft is very unfortunate and well, not the draft, my bad. That trade they was trying to attempt, and it's one of those very rare cases where, those tampering rules gonna come into play. But I feel like Milwaukee. The thing is, when you have to look at the decision to draft, not only did they draft R.J. Hampton, they drafted Jordan Norwa and Sam Merrill.
Yep.
I believe that Milwaukee was trying to have a backup plan because pretty much when they was trying to do the trade, they was trying to get a good, well, not a good shooter, a sharp shooter, and Bogdan Bogdanovic. But unfortunately, since that didn't work out, they was trying to find a backup plan. So when I was looking into it, I was thinking, you got some shooters that you could put on the bench. And I think Milwaukee, they're just thinking in the long run, well, if we can't do this trade, we might as well just get some young guns that can be able to shoot. And then maybe, if the trade does officially fall through, because they still have some time, because pretty much Bogdan Bogdanovic was pretty much saying, well, I didn't agree with this. I'm restricted. I still have until tomorrow, Friday. So I want to be able to lay all my cards on the table before I decide to go to Milwaukee. I do feel like though that it is a good place for him because again, when you look at the lineup, you got like 3 shooters. Two of them, with lots of length and size, and Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez. Didn't have Bogdanovic alongside Giannis and Bledsoe. To me,
and it's taking off the pressure that Giannis can't really be in that middle like that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And it's also taking the pressure to make sure that Giannis can stay. Because I feel like it is enough. Some people feel like it isn't enough, but I feel like that's enough. Because when you have all those shooters, and not only did you get rid of Bledsoe and Hield, you got a playmaker in
Drew Holiday, and defensively with him,
and defensively. And I feel like that's the one thing that Milwaukee really needed. I don't feel like Giannis was the problem. I just feel like Giannis, he was eventually getting run. He was getting run into the ground, and I feel like Lopez and Middleton, they didn't know how to react to that. So I feel like that's why Milwaukee did end up being a disaster, and pretty much getting mollywopped by Miami, which. It was kind of expected, but it kind of wasn't at the same time. But the bottom line is that Milwaukee needs to get some shooters. They need to make sure that they wasn't the laughing stock of this trade going completely left. So I feel like considering that and considering again their needs, I did feel like it was a decent pick. It wasn't, the best, but I feel like it was decent, falling to the middle.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you all have nothing else to say on this clock, episode 102 is in the books. And one last thing before we go. One, make sure you catch your favorite sports podcast, Roam the Airways, Rolling with Ramos, on Heritage Sports Radio Network. You can catch us every Saturday there.
Yes.
We are now there. We are excited. If you don't know what Heritage Sports Radio Network, if you've never listened to a MEAC, CIAA, or SWAT game, football, basketball wise, and you didn't catch it from Lamont, Germany, Mark Gray, those guys that gave me my start and allowed me to come on these tournaments and games with them on the sideline. Now we are a part of the Heritage Sports Radio Network timeline. Loreal, I can't say this wasn't great. because it was. And every time you spoke, I just felt like sitting and listening, like you were reading me a book or something, like we were at the library and you were somebody's great aunt that just
literally everybody tells me that, and there's just a fun fact. I took a communications class at school, and I remember at the end of the semester we was giving out paper plate awards, and my professor, she gave me the audiobook award because she said that every time I gave a presentation, this sounded like I was reading an audiobook.
Oh man, you sound like a beautiful sports melody. The way you just it's like the violin plays the stats and you just going and going. This was amazing. Have your people call my people. You can come here anytime. Tell us where they can find you. Congratulations in advance, because you will get out of there and you will make it around in this industry, and we will see you. We all gonna see each other. But thank you for joining us, spending the whole time. Tell them where they can find you, your wonderful articles, and hey, when you'll be back. You know, I didn't scare you. He didn't scare you.
No, he definitely didn't scare me, and I will definitely be back. But for all the people that's trying to figure out, who I am and my content, follow me on Twitter, low_Cartier. Follow me on Instagram, mystical.low. Once again, I'm Loreal Nix. I'm a student at Central Michigan University. Not only do I write for Last Word on Sports, but the Game House, I also have my own blog called Live in the Mix. And literally since I was since I was a senior in high school, I just had this vision of, coming up with these stories, coming up with these narratives. So I pretty much started with that. And, look at me, 21 years old, about to graduate. I'm here on the show. Pretty much what I'm just trying to say is that if you just work hard at it, specifically what you want to do, how you want to get there, where you want to go, everything's going to be easy for you, I promise.
And listen, you got a long way to go. This won't be the last time we see each other. We see you. Hell, I might just call you up just to hear your voice. And I'm going to say it like episode 103. Me and Tristan are trying to figure out a schedule that's going to work with you guys, because the holidays are coming up. We're going to be with I don't know how much we're going to be able to be with our families with this COVID-19 stuff going on. Please, everybody stay safe. I had to have my own scare in my own right. I had a coworker guy that had to make sure I was safe. Do what you can. Celebrate the safest way you can. But we're going to figure out something where we can still bring you some content within these next couple of weeks as Christmas, Thanksgiving. Y'all going to stop disrespecting Thanksgiving. Y'all got Christmas trees out there. And we ain't even broke no bread yet. We ain't had no type of yams yet. Y'all gonna respect Thanksgiving. Anyway, the only holiday where you really, Thanksgiving was the first holiday where I realized I was an adult. When my aunt and uncle started handing me liquor, I was like, yeah, I done made it. It's Thanksgiving. Anyways, Christmas, New Year's, we'll be having some content with you. Make sure you follow Rolling with Ramos at Rolling with Ramos on IG, at Roll with Ramos on Rolling with Ramos, no H, on Twitter. Make sure you follow me at Mikkel Sade. Make sure you follow Tristan at, I forgot, Tristan Wrights? No, yep. Tristan TV 20.
Yep.
Yes, Tris TV 20. Make sure you, if you're looking for stocking stuffers, if you're looking just for something that to support the show, great content, and of course, we're paying homage to a legend and my father. Make sure you guys rock Rolling with Ramos apparel. We will be back for 103 and we will have some very good guests for you. We're working on something for this NBA special. I'm the Grinch that gave you Christmas. Remember that. And I'm going to say it like I say it every week. I don't care if it does not rhyme. It is still mine. Make sure you're watching Thursday Night Football. You can go do that now. I mean, Gucci and Jeezy. Go figure out who won. I'm going to say it how I say it every week. I don't care if it does not rhyme. It's still mine. I'm Mikkel and Kevin Mikkel. Tristan, Loreal. It's a wrap on this one. See y'all.
Yep. Peace.
Peace.